evening, you're with ET Now, and this is the India Development Debate. I'm Sandeep. Gurumurthi joining you live from our news center in Mumbai. Joining me in Delhi is my colleague Supriya Shrinate. Straight to the big debate tonight. Call it power politics by the Narendra Modi government. In a big boost to rural India, the centre has announced that it has achieved the target of 100% electrification of almost 6 lakh villages of the country. No doubt it's a credit-worthy achievement, but what makes it interesting is the timing of the announcement coming just ahead of the crucial Karnataka Assembly elections. Just to recall, on the 15th of August 2015, the Prime Minister had made a promise to power up the entire country in the next 1,000 days. With the basic infrastructure in place, the real challenge will now be to ensure that every household gets uninterrupted power supply.
Indeed. Now, speaking exclusively to ET Now, Union Power Minister R.K. Singh said that the lack of equipment and manpower shortage are the biggest risks in electrifying all the households in the hinterland. He also did insist that the government is hopeful of meeting the year-end target, providing 100% connectivity all across India. Interestingly, a political slugfest has already begun on the government's big claims over total electrification. The main opposition, that's the Congress, has slammed the BJP for taking false credit for the work done by the UPA government, stating that it is celebration of inefficiencies. After all, the Congress insists that the electrification was at 97% when it demitted office in 2014. The BJP on its part has hit back, stating that while the entire nation is celebrating power for every single village, the Congress is mourning the loss of power for one family. All right, let's take this across to our expert panel that's joining us right here, covering every bit of that story. It's Syed Zafar Islam, national spokesperson of the BJP, Gaurav Vallabh, representing the Congress, right here on the show. I've got P. Uma Shankar, former Power Secretary, H.D. Kunteta, former CMD Rural Electrification Corporation, and Rahul Tongia, fellow Energy and Environment, Brookings India. So thanks each one of you for joining us. And Mr. P. Uma Shankar, given the fact that you have been Power Secretary, I think it's only fair that I begin the first question with you. While rural electrification is not the same as every household electrified, and that's the big difference. Just for the benefit of our viewers, our story also told you that 10% of households and public spaces, if those are electrified, you say that the village is electrified. So that's the difference between every household electrified and rural electrification. Yet, would you agree that this is a key milestone in India's development journey, the fact that all of India is now electrified in terms of the household criteria that at least being met?
Okay, firstly, I think you increase the volume, I can just about hear you. So I would like to,
sure.
I can't hear you now at all. Can't hear you. I can hardly hear you. You'll have to increase the volume. Hello?
Could you get my question? Mr. Uma Shankar, could you get my question? Could you get my first question
it's
there?
Very low. You'll have to
so
come
my question
again.
Really is that,
you're audible.
Right. So my question really is, while rural electrification is not the same as all household electrification, as the former Power Secretary, do you still believe that this is a key milestone in India's development journey?
Oh, definitely. I think, you see, we should look at how our electricity space developed. So in 70, 80 years ago, when we got independence in 1947, we used to count the number of villages which were electrified. Now we moved to a situation where we count the number of villages which are not electrified. That is one thing. The journey to electrify villages started quite some time ago, and I would think that in the last about starting with 2000 and particularly with 2005, there was an organized effort to ensure that villages were electrified. Of course, the definition is that 10% of the households in that village is electrified, then the village will be considered electrified. That is the definition that we are given. Given that fact, I think to now reach a situation where all the villages in the country have been electrified, even by that definition, is a very important milestone. But having said that, I would like to say that that is only the first milestone. There are many, many more milestones we have to achieve before we can really feel satisfied. There are a lot of work in electrification of villages, rural areas, and rural households have been done. Okay. At the same time, we should also remember that when we say, I mean, the same thing has been mentioned by you also, when I say that a particular village has been electrified, it only means that 10% of the households in that village have been electrified, and that electrical system has come to that village. So unless I complete electrifying the rest of the households, I suppose I cannot be satisfied that I have done the work.
Sure.
So as far as milestone is concerned, yes, I would think that this is an important milestone.
Sure.
But we have many miles to go before we can say that we've done a lot of work.
Okay, and we will cover what needs to be done from here on. That's what we want to devote a large part of the time in this debate to. But Mr. Kunteta, if I could come to you, you've led Rural Electrification Corporation, the organization that is tasked with sort of electrifying India's village. Would you call this a landmark feat, or would you be more cautious given the fact that despite having achieved 100% rural electrification, more than 30 million rural households still have no access to electricity? Mr. Kunteta, if you can hear me, I was asking, Mr. Kunteta, I was asking if would you call this a landmark feat, or would you be a little more cautious given the fact that despite having achieved 100% rural electrification, more than 30 million households have no access to electricity?
Hello.
Okay, I think we'll try and fix that audio link with Mr. Kunteta in just a bit. But let me take that to other panelists as well. Then I'm coming to you, Zafar Islam. Let's get the political reaction first. You know, is it important to be cautious? Yes, there is need to celebrate. Yes, this is a big achievement. But would you concede that the fact that 30 million households still have no access to electricity means that you know that one needs to be cautious as one celebrates this achievement?
Well, it is certainly an important landmark. It is an achievement for sure, and this achievement must be celebrated because it is the first landmark we have achieved, because all the villages have been electrified, which the Honorable Prime Minister had spoken from the rampant of Red Fort on 15th August 2015. And since then, we have been constantly working towards achieving the goal, and on 20th April we did achieve the goal. But what is important, yes, as you rightly said that, and Mr. Uma Shankar also rightly pointed out that this is the first milestone, this is an achievement, but we have long way to go, and long way to go that the Power Minister has very clearly stated that the next milestone is every household should be electrified. The electricity must go to every household, and that is something which we have targeted, that we have a target that this must be achieved before 31st December 2018 as stated by the Honorable Minister of Power, Mr. R.K. Singh. The third important milestone, first you achieve that, the third important milestone would be that 24/7 electricity to every household, and that is also we are trying to achieve, but each milestone needs to be achieved one after the another, because it cannot be done simultaneously, and that is something which everybody acknowledges. That's a major achievement, because first infrastructure needed to be put in place, and that infrastructure have been put in place. Every single village of this country, 5,97,000 villages of this country have been put in, all the infrastructure are in place. 10% household, whatever the parameters, not only this parameter, there are other 12 parameters which has to be, one needs to comply to declare that a village has been electrified. I think we have achieved everything. Now the next milestone, we are moving ahead with our next target to electrify every household in the country, and third would be, of course, to provide 24/7 electricity to every household, okay. And fourth, which is also already in work in progress, to ensure that all the state discom also function, and the AT&C must come off to almost zero. Today it was in 33%. Now it is 23%. In last 3-4 years we have been able to reduce it, and we will further reduce it going forward.
Okay. I take that point. Let me take it to Dr. Rahul Tongia, who's joining us from Bookings. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this evening. And again, before we make it a political debate, it's important to assess the impact of what has happened. And I'm trying to understand here, rural electrification alone, the kind of economic impact it could potentially trigger. Help us understand what triggers economic activity. Is it simple connectivity or good quality power supply? I mean, is simple connectivity alone enough to trigger economic activity in rural areas?
Hi. So I don't think anyone is making the claim that by adding a wire to the village, the work is done. We've heard from everyone saying it's a milestone, and from here we do progress to the household, and as said before, from household is quality supply. Ultimately, electricity is a powerful enabler of not only economic growth but human development. Let's not underestimate the value to getting electricity that can enable more jobs to be done, children to study at night, are reducing the reliance on kerosene, which has its own economic and health risks. So electricity shouldn't only be viewed in a pure economic lens, but also the human development aspect. And I think, as everyone said, it's a milestone. There are still things that need to be done. Mr. Islam pointed out that then after the village level electrification, we move to household level electrification. After that, we also need two more things, and I don't think they have to be sequential. First is we also want affordable electricity, yet keeping the discoms viable. So that's a balancing act. And then we also want to move towards increased sustainability, because in the medium and longer term, worrying about the environment will become more and more paramount. So these are just tasks ahead. I don't think this government is under any illusions that the work is done, but at the same time, it's a credible achievement. If people think this is like a relay race, certainly not all the credit should be given to the person who crosses the finishing line, except there's one difference. Here in this case, the last villages to be connected are usually the hardest to electrify. So in that sense, it's a credible achievement, but I don't think this government is under any illusions that the work is done.
Okay, let me just take this across to Mr. Kunteta before I go back to the politicians on the show and Gaurav Vallabh and Zafar Islam. I'll come to you in just a bit. Mr. Kunteta, you know, it's been reasonably ascertained on the show that this is a big deal, but this is just work that has begun. Nobody is saying, you know, we've crossed the finishing line, so to say. Even then, I just want to understand from somebody who's been a part of the power sector, how big an achievement this really is. And like Mr. Tongia was pointing out there, you know, getting the last bit of the villages that were perhaps the most difficult electrified, how big a deal this really is? Or do you believe the work has just about begun because households now need to be electrified?
I would like to say that this is a credible achievement, but the bigger achievement will be to provide the connectivity to the 3 crore household, where the government has fixed the target to provide the connectivity within by end of June May 2019. So that will be a bigger achievement, and for that the major contribution has to be done by the REC and also the DISCOMs, because the connectivity is not the only answer, but the power to provide at a affordable rates and also reliable power, that is more important. So connectivity can be done because the efforts are being made to provide the connectivity to the 3 crore household, but the reliable power at a affordable price, that is more important. And for that the DISCOMs reforms are very essential. They have to do the distribution connectivity like load factors and transmission lines, that has to be in the right place, because at present the DISCOM losses are around more than 24%, and the target to reduce the losses to 15% by March 2019. So that is a big task. Unless the DISCOM become the financial viable, even you can see that in last 2 years, the government has come out with the Uday Yojana, where the 3 lakh crore of liability has been taken over by the state government. So their financial viability is very essential to provide the power to the India, right, to all the persons, whether it's a industry, whether it's a rural people. whether it is to the
Okay, Mr.
residential
Kantor.
people, to all.
Right.
So that is more important for us.
Right. Mr. Kunteta, you made your point there. I want to take this across to Gaurav Vallabh. And, you know, Gaurav Vallabh, I know the Congress has tried to puncture a few holes in the government's claims. The milestone has taken 7 decades to be achieved. Remember, you know, I know you say 97% was done when you demitted office. It's only the 3% that this government has done. But it has taken us 7 decades to get to this point where all villages are finally electrified. It doesn't matter what UPA's pace of electrification really was. The fact of the matter is that it couldn't be done in 60 years of the Congress rule. And so NDA today is rightfully, you know, running past the finishing line and is also bragging about this achievement. Why are you feeling so sullen about this tonight?
No, there is nothing called as we feel bad about this. I will give you, first of all, let me say on the national television that if every village is connected to the grid, we are happy. It's not that we are sad, but we are sad because this, had it been the UPA growth story, we can achieve the same threshold by August 2015 when Prime Minister promised that in the next 1000 days I will do that. Because I am going to give you the data regarding that. The average village per year from 5 to 14 for electrification was around 12,000 village per year. Now, under the current Modi government, it is 4,800 village per year. So, they are working at 40% of efficiency of our average efficiency. So, what I am saying, from 2014 to 2015, had it been we in governance, then before Prime Minister announcing from Lal Killa, the 100% electrification might have been achieved with the same growth. And as the experts are pointing out, 3.1 crore households are remaining, and as far as households are concerned, our average household connection per year was 47 lakh, which is 14.5 lakh for the current government. So, that is what we are saying, that the current government is in the chest thumping, self-praisal type of mode, and they are celebrating their inefficiency, and whatever work we had done, they are trying to get the credit. But
60 years of the
all
rule,
said and done, we are happy that all villages of the country had reached, the power grid is connected to that.
Okay, I'm glad you're at least acknowledging that you're happy, because the reaction that we've got from the Congress party since last evening is anything but happiness. But Syed Zafar Islam, Gaurav Vallabh has made one valid point and you need to comment on that. He's saying that Congress claimed that 97% of nearly 6.5 lakh villages were already electrified by the time Modi came to power. They're also saying that the pace of electrification was significantly more, that they were doing well over 10,000 villages, whereas you have your pace is only 4,800. So what is this brouhaha all about, says the Congress party? Zafar Islam.
I think they need to respond to the people of this country why there is a darkness all over, for last several years. And there are many states where they were ruling, there is still not 50% households have been electrified. I think there is no point doing tutu meme on this issue, purely because it is a collective achievement for the people of this country. And I didn't say even one word that there is no contribution from the UP or the Congress party, because they have delivered something which everyone is acknowledging. But what the promise made by the Honorable Prime Minister from the rampant of Red Fort on 15th August 2015, that we will deliver and will accomplish this goal within 1,000 days, we have been able to accomplish. And the next milestone should be that every household should be electrified. I think what people should do, that should be thrilled with joy, including Congress. I know they are feeling marginalized, they are feeling left out, purely because this is an achievement and they do not want people to see happy. You must see that the people are happy today, that every villages in the country have now been electrified. Their infrastructure is in place. People of that village people have expectations. Don't compare. See, I don't want to. I can give many statistics to corner you. No, I can give you many statistics to corner you. But today, listen, Supriya, all I am saying, this is an achievement. Achievement of the country. Achievement of the country. And everyone.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's a very big achievement. One second. Zafar Islam, 1 second. It's a very big achievement for the country. Please listen to me now. No, 1 second. Now you listen to me. No, 1 second. Now you listen to me. It's a very big achievement for the country. There is no denying that. And I don't want the Congress and the BJP to be politicizing the issue. The reality is, it's a shame on this country that we have taken 70 years to electrify all of India. You know, whether the NDA was in rule or the Congress was in rule is immaterial. You go to the villages and you see the pathetic condition that people live in. I think politicians should be ashamed of that. And what are we celebrating? We are celebrating electrification of one village. The number of households that are still dark. Anyways, the Congress has a lot to answer, so does the BJP. But I'll take a quick follow-up with you, Zafar Islam. The former power minister and the current railway minister, Piyush Goyal, had earlier announced that the government will achieve the target of rural electrification by May 2017. Are we 1 year late? And what explains the delay, if not the inefficiency charge?
No, the target was within 1,000 days, and we need to achieve within 1,000 days, and that's something which we have been able to accomplish. It is not important to exactly pinpoint whether what the minister at that point had said, in what context he had said, in what perspective, and what exactly the target he was referring to. All I can say that what the Honorable Prime Minister had said, that all villages will be electrified within 1,000 days, that's something which we have delivered. Now, again, as I said, the next target has also been notified that we will achieve on a targeted date that all households should be electrified. Third target was of, as I had earlier told you, that sustainable effort to provide constant electricity, so 24/7 electricity in every household. And fourth, as I said, that the restructuring DISCOM and the losses of DISCOM should be reduced, because the distribution is the state responsibility. The center responsibility only to create infrastructure, but the regular supply will always rest with that responsibility will rest with the state government, and that is, as Mr. Kudeta rightly pointed out.
Okay, I take that point, most of which are governed by the BJP. Zafar Islam, I'm going to have to interrupt you. I'm going to have to interrupt you because I need to get in a word. Zafar Islam, allow me to interrupt you. I need to get a word in from my wonderful experts on the panel. Before I go back to the three experts and talk about the substantive changes that have happened and the road ahead, a quick word from Gaurav Vallabh, and because I want to get the politics out of the way. Gaurav, Congress, your chief spokesperson Randeep Surjewala says the Congress-led governments electrified villages at a rate of over 10,000 per year. You yourself made the point. Then he says we didn't boast our achievements. Simple question is, why couldn't you complete this when you were in office, and what stopped you from boasting again while you were in office?
So, Sandeep, the issue was that we are not blindly working, that we have to just complete and just take the garland that we had done that. We were working on the quality of power, and I will give you the data for that. See, average yearly BPL connection and from 2005 to 14 were 47 lakh per annum. 47 lakh households, which is 14.5 lakh in their regime. So what was our story? We are at one hand we are connecting every village to the grid. On the other side, simultaneously, we are trying to see that quality of power. It should not happen that 10% households and panchayat got the electricity, and for the rule book purpose, this is electrified. We are trying that household. So 5 to 14, 2 crore households got the electricity, and out of these 2 crore households, 1.9 crore were BPL households. So as Supriya was pointing out, I am thankful. She is telling that why it took long. Supriya, when we got the independence, there were 1500 villages. That time 1500 villages were electrified. So it took a long journey, and our rate from 5 to 14 was 12,084, which is 4,800.
Okay.
So I don't want to say that, okay, we had done great, we had provided governance, and at the same time I am saying that I as a Congress party spokesperson saying that we are happy that all villages of the country are electrified, but their inefficiency is so big.
I get your point there.
Followed our model. This is achieved.
I get your point there. Gaurav Vallabh, I've got your point there. The Congress party is absolutely
your inefficiency for the last 70 years.
Electrified. No, 1 second. I can't. I'm sorry. This is not a debate between the two of you, gentlemen. There are 3 other experts on the show. I want Gaurav Vallabh and Zafar Islam to keep quiet now. You know what, Zafar Islam and Gaurav Vallabh, please keep quiet. Between the two of you and between two of your political parties, you haven't been able to electrify all of India. So it's best we go back to our experts for just 5 minutes and then we'll come back to you and discuss the politics once again. And yes, I'm being very sarcastic. Mr. P. Umar Shankar, the NDA government says it shifted priorities from simple electrification of villages to intensive electrification, and that under the Modi government, intensive electrification has been completed in 80% of the villages. As someone who understands the sector, how significant an achievement that really is?
Again, are you talking about intensive electrification in the sense of electrifying households and villages which have already been electrified? Is this what you're saying?
Yes. Hello? Yes. Yes.
Okay, you see, even the earlier program that we had, which was started in 2005, it had two elements. One element was electrifying unelectrified villages, and another element was bringing electric connections to households even in the villages which have already been declared electrified. So what happened was, during that 2005 was when the program started. In about 9 years or so, one could do electrification of about 100,000 unelectrified villages, plus one could also do about something like 2.34 crores of households which were in all those villages which had been declared electrified, but the households did not have electric connection. So these two things will have to go together. Even today, even those 18,000 villages which have been electrified, we have already said this, only 10% of the households would have got electric supply, and there are about last estimate was about 4 crores, now I am told it's about 3.1 crores. So 3.1 crores households have to be given electric connections. That is what will become part of the intensification of electric connection program, and I think this has already been taken up. This is you got this new Saubhagya Yojana, which is expected to ensure that all the households, 3.5 crores or whatever, should also get electric connections by first date was March 2019. Now I am told it has been advanced to December 2018. So that's a very important milestone that we'll have to look at. But at the same time, what I would think is that it is not important just to bring an electric connection to a house. It is far more important, or equally important, to see that the upstream infrastructure that is required in terms of bringing electricity to that village from the substation, and also having enough transformation capacity at the substation, these things will also have to be seen. I would like to really look at the, people should look at the Saubhagya scheme to see if this is being considered there. Otherwise, simply drawing a line into a household may probably get them a line, but will it be in a position to bring electric supply to that household is a question that we need to look at.
Good point. Mr. Kunteta, again, let's put this in perspective. The target that has been set, India has electrified 13% of 36 million homes that were identified in October. So for it to achieve this target by March 2019 or by December 2018, as it has been advanced, it has to accelerate the monthly pace by more than threefold. Having led the Rural Electrification Corporation, tell us, is that feasible? Do you see that happening? Mr. Kunteta, can you hear me?
I'm not hearing.
Okay, I don't think we're getting that. Let me take that to Dr. Rahul Tongia. Then, if I could ask the same question to you, India has electrified just 13% of 36 million homes that were identified in October as part of the Saubhagya scheme. So, for it to achieve this target by March 2019 that Mr. Umar Shankar spoke about, or even if it were to be advanced to December 2018, the monthly pace has to be accelerated by more than threefold. How feasible is that?
So it's a very daunting target, and as we know from the villages, adding connections to the last few is always harder than the historical past, because the hardest to connect are the ones left till the end. So it'll be daunting. Are there enough national resources or companies? Perhaps, but I think to make it happen, you'll need a triangulation of not just money, but also institutional improvements, because the paperwork to get it done, especially because finances matter. Now, one of the things talking to people in the field is that some of these schemes require a lot of paperwork to be filled out so that you can get the government support or certain things can happen. Those have to be streamlined, otherwise it becomes unnecessarily tougher. The last thing we have to step back and ask is, why aren't homes jumping ahead to actually take the connection? There are many instances of villages where the electricity reached some time ago. Houses were nearby to poles even, because that's one of the main challenges, is the last mile. And yet they have chosen not to, or not bothered, or not gotten around to, or not been able to. We have to decipher what's going on, why these households haven't come online. So if we get the bottom-up push, the pull from the bottom up and the push from top down, I think that's when the target could be met. Personally, I think the target is heroically ambitious, and it's worth watching and supporting. Whether it does happen or not, I'm confident we'll make enormous strides regardless, and we may meet it, but to make it happen, a lot of things will need to align.
Is Mr. Kunteta ready? Can I go across to him? Is he getting our audio very clearly? Okay, no? Okay, I'll go across to Mr. Umashankar before I take it across to Mr. Kunteta whenever he is ready. And Mr. Umashankar, you know, the Power Minister in an interview with us did cite lack of equipment and skilled manpower as a challenge to ensure electricity reaches all households. And that's, of course, a very tall order given the deadlines that we are working with. How big a constraint is that? And is mobilizing contractors and equipments the only way out? Or can that be managed through any other way?
You know, one point I'd like to pick up is what Rahul had mentioned. This is about the households not coming forward to take connections. Sometimes the money that a household had to pay for taking a connection used to be fairly substantial. In the earlier program, households below poverty line were given free connections, but those above poverty line had to pay the actual cost of getting a line into their household. But in the new Saubhagya scheme, this has also been done away with. So I believe with this change, a lot of households would come forward to take a connection. That is one point. The second point with households not wanting to take connection is, you know, the difficulties one faces in terms of billing and so on. You could get an excess bill and then you run around and try to sort it out and all that. So that is another difficulty that I'm sure households do face. Now, having said that, to do about 3 crore households by the end of this year or by the end of March 19 is, I think, is well nigh an impossible task. I have seen rural electrification from very close quarters. I used to be CMD of REC for a couple of years before I became Secretary Power. Particularly in the states which need to do a lot of work in household electrification, like UP, Bihar and so on, one finds that the pace of getting the work done is even more difficult. There are a lot of issues like, you know, getting the projects prepared, getting the tenders invited and finalizing them and so on. A difficulty of getting material, we used to face this difficulty quite some time ago, but I thought the Indian electrical manufacturers are very well equipped to supply these. I do not think that's a very big issue, but I've also noticed that contractors who take up the job of rural electrification probably initially thought it was a very easy job, simply pitching poles and pulling lines. Subsequently, they found that it is not so easy. It's quite difficult to do a rural electrification job. You know, you have all sorts of difficulties of right of way and theft of material and all kinds of things. So to get very good contractors to work in the rural areas to do the simple job of bringing the electric infrastructure into the household, that is quite difficult. So given all these things, I feel that by December or by March, it's going to be an extremely difficult task.
Okay.
But you really have to set your targets high, and then you can achieve that. Having said all that, my very apprehension, my serious question is, it is not important just to bring a line. You need to see that there is adequacy of the support electricity infrastructure available at the village level and above the village level up to the substation. That is what we need to do. Otherwise, it will simply be making available wires to households,
which is
and
of no
not
consequence.
electricity.
Okay, that's an important point to make. But Said Zafar Islam, you need to react to the point made there by Mr. Umar Shankar that even March 2019 looks very difficult. And I'll tell you why. If you go by household electrification status, the numbers tell you that barring Odisha, it's the BJP ruled states that lag behind others, with UP having 56% connectivity, Jharkhand at 48%, Assam at 57%, Bihar and Rajasthan 74 and 79%. I mean, power is on the concurrent list. So effectively, it's it's the job of the states, of course, many of whom have BJP government. Why is it that these states, BJP governed states, are lagging behind? Is it inefficiency, lack of intent? What do you blame it on?
Well, as Mr. Umar Shankar rightly pointed out, that it's a very tough task. It's a tough call. It's a very Herculean ask, and the government is setting a very difficult target for itself. But let me tell you that entire issues have been mapped by the ministry. All the issues which may occur, all the bottlenecks which may come during the process have already been mapped, and that's why the solution has also been found, and that's why the Honorable Minister has very clearly stated that there are issues, there are constraints, there are potential problems. All these things we have mapped, and we are also working on the solution as well. But keeping that target in our mind that we have to achieve on a targeted date, and something which we are confident that we will accomplish, irrespective whether it's a BJP ruled state or not a BJP ruled state. But our job is to create infrastructure, which we have created. Now we have to work for DISCOM, that also we have restructured it. Now we have to work with to ensure that the sustainable electricity is there through DISCOM, and all the household has the connectivity, the electrical connectivity every household has. That is something which we will deliver before the deadline, and we are very confident of delivering it.
Okay, Gaurav Vallabh, I'm going to come to you because, you know, cutting across political party lines, whether it's the BJP or the Congress, power continues to be a very, very significant political tool. And, you know, it's a tool that has seen DISCOMs go into a complete disarray. So I'll ask you a very frank question. Without reforms like rationalization of tariffs or moving away from providing free electricity to rich farmers to gain votes and not cutting down on transmission and distribution losses, most of the DISCOMs will hark back to bleeding again, and that will lead to less capital available for upgrading infrastructure, connecting remote parts and all of that. Will DISCOMs follow the process of reforms? They haven't so far. I mean, just to put it on record, they haven't. Despite they haven't been able to, you know, follow up with a tariff hike and all of that. And if they're not going to be allowed to do so without political interference, we will perhaps see the same old story, and that same vicious cycle continues, where DISCOMs will reel under huge losses. There will be, you know, attempts made to set their finances. Uday is the third attempt made to fix the financial mess in DISCOMs. All I'm asking is, when will political interference end? And I'm not just singling out the Congress party here. Across political party lines, that continues to be a problem.
See, Supriya, a very valid point you had raised. See, Uday is not at all any scheme. It's what they are trying to do. This is an accounting jugglery. They are just trying to convert fixed interest bearing debts of DISCOM as a variable interest bearing. So ultimately the liability is not going out of the balance sheet. And because of that, the DISCOMs are burning like anything, whether it's Uday or non-Uday. And because of that, there is a big load shedding happening. Now, problem with the current government, Supriya, is that they are not realizing that still till date 60% of electricity is generated by coal, and they are imposing the restrictions on the import of coal. after restrictions also, the Coal India is not able to fulfill the requirements of the thermal plants. And as per the Coal Ministry report to the Parliament, I am quoting that right now, out of 100 thermal plants which were followed by the CEA, that is Central Electricity Authority, out of 156 plants are not having coal. So there is a power deficit also, because 60% generation is by coal. Uday is not able to get anything to the discoms. And the third point, the per capita electricity consumption, which was growing at the rate of 6% from 2005 to 14, now that is growing less than 6%. And this is the data which REC and the Power Ministry had shared in the Parliament. So I am not making the problem is that they are more in a chest thumping mode rather than solving a problem and taking the holistic approach for that problem. Electricity is
quick
not
rebuttal
something.
from you, and then I'm going to Dr.
They will
Rahul
say
Tongia.
we are moving to renewable.
Okay, fair enough. I take that point.
I am not against renewable.
Okay. You made your point, Gaurav Vallabh. Quick rebuttal
power
from Syed Zafar Islam, and then I'm going to Dr. Rahul Tongia. Syed Zafar Islam, quick rebuttal.
I think Congress spokesperson must see their history, what they have delivered and what they have not. And had they been so meticulous, they could have given electricity to every household by now, but they haven't done. So don't unnecessarily talk about talk about your achievement which you have not delivered.
I shared all
today
data.
Is the day
You
which
are
I said
miserably
failed
in your promises. You are not able to do anything.
Important. Just listen to me.
His point.
Listen to
Gaurav Vallabh, let him complete his
me.
point. He didn't interrupt me.
Listen to me.
Let him complete his point. Gaurav Vallabh, let him complete his point. Let him complete his point. I have more ground to cover. Quickly make your point, Zafar Islam.
There's uncivilized man.
Yeah, complete your point, Zafar Islam,
that,
quickly.
In terms of deficit, if you see the 2013 number,
When you are not having any points, I am uncivilized.
Electricity deficit was to 8.4%. Please, Mr. Bhalla, if you have some sense, please allow me to complete. I didn't interrupt you in between. All I am saying that 2013, the deficit was 8.4%. Currently, the deficit is only 0.7%. Secondly, the peak time deficit, if you see, that is also only 2%, which has come up significantly from what we were at 2014 when they left the government, UPA government. So all I am saying that we have moved far ahead in a mess what they had left. We are setting a target for the people of this country. We do not want to showcase to Congress party, because we want to showcase to the people of this country what we have committed and what we have achieved and what we have delivered. And as I said earlier, that every problem has been mapped. We have understood, we have realized that what are the issues, and we will deliver to what we have committed, and people of this country will revalidate, and not the Congress. We do not want a revalidation.
Okay, eventually it's the people of the country who will judge. I take that point. Dr. Rahul Tongia, I'm coming to you. Specific question. Governments have used cheap electricity to rural homes and farmers as a political tool, often at a financial loss. State distribution companies were saddled with debt of over $6 billion as of March 2015. And then, of course, this government launched this massive Uday scheme to pare debt. But that didn't quite take off because electricity boards did not hike tariffs due to political pressure, and that's end of the deal never got through. So how does one ensure that politics is kept away from electricity pricing, especially because the centre has a limited role to play? After all, it is in the domain of states.
So, in theory, it should be depoliticized thanks to electricity regulatory commissions, the ERCs. The only problem is reality doesn't quite match theory. So, you're absolutely right. The issues of tariffs really matter, and this will really take either a lot of political will, but also I think success stories may have a role to play. So, if we look around India, thanks to 29 states and I believe somewhere in the order of 78 discoms, we do see positive outliers, and they're across the spectrum. They're not with any one political party necessarily. Number of states have made significant strides in different aspects, whether it's getting metering, whether it's getting electrification, whether it's getting reasonable or viable tariffs. The problem is we have to work on all of these fronts. Now, in all this debate that we've heard, vigorous debate, I think we sometimes lose the fact that we are in actual vigorous agreement. So everyone agrees that something has been done And a lot more needs to be done, as we've discussed, which is households, quality supply, affordability, sustainability, etc. And so I really wish that the discourse would move towards these issues, which, like you said, come back to the discoms. So the discoms are a key aspect that need a lot more effort. It's not sequential. It's not as if you do the wires first and then come to the discoms. You will need to tackle the discoms because they have to buy in to rural electrification. As long as discoms view rural users as non-paying, or if they find them very expensive, there is a go slow mentality towards treating them, giving them quality service. That vicious cycle absolutely needs to be broken. And one good point, Mr. Umashankar made this observation that do we have enough upstream? If we do the math and we take 30 million homes roughly and say let's give them lifeline supply of 100 watts, even if all of them added to the load overnight, that would only be in the order of 3.5, 3.8 gigawatts of capacity required to meet that load, which is very, very low and very, very manageable. So then why isn't it being done? The problem is one of institutional. You're absolutely right, it is the discoms. It's on how to segregate control to actually measure, monitor and deliver the power. So one of the things we've been asking for a long time as scholars is let's map out, monitor who's getting supply and start penalizing for unscheduled load shedding and eventually all load shedding. Until there's a penalty for doing something that shouldn't be done, it'll continue.
Right. You know, I'll quickly go across to Mr. Umashankar. Mr. Umashankar, you know, there is this whole debate about proper pricing of input cost, and that's very crucial to any economic model. The moment you subsidize any one factor, you have repercussions, and I'm going to quote two quick examples. Punjab is growing basmati rice because of cheap availability of power. There is so much of drilling that happens. You know, the water belt gets destroyed. Maharashtra is growing sugarcane instead of ideal crops like jowar and bajra and millets because it's a dry region. Sugarcane should be grown in plentiful areas like UP and Bihar. This is all according to and because of cheap availability of power. As a result, water tables are dropping. Can power tariffs be made to cut across party lines given the economic compulsion, something like the GST model, where everybody comes together, you know, yes, it is partisan politics, but, you know, everybody comes together, decides on things and then moves away. Can power tariff be dealt in a similar fashion, or do you believe it's way too potent a political tool? Mr. Umashankar.
Okay, just one more question, just responding to what Rahul had mentioned. It is the amount of power required to give 30 million households lifeline supply comes to about 3 odd gigawatts. So that much generation capacity we have, there is no issue. But generation capacity is not enough. We need to have enough transmission and sub-transmission capacity. Otherwise, the generated power will not reach the substations and further on to the villages. That is the point I was trying to make. It is not that we don't have enough generation capacity. We may, and I do believe we lack substantial, we have substantially inadequate in terms of sub-transmission capacity and further on. That is one point. Secondly, power tariff, if you see, this is one business where the seller, particularly the public owned discom, is a person who does not want to increase sale of electricity because every unit of electricity sold means loss for the company. So we need to change that. Tariff fixation can be brought outside politics. You know, one of the things I saw was the bank, which every bank, most of the discoms borrow money from banks. If we had a committee of bankers overseeing some discoms, if they are told to see that electricity tariffs are revised in a way that the discoms are in a position to repay the loans of banks, otherwise the bank loans will not available, I saw substantial change in many discoms. That is one way of ensuring that politics or the way the tariffs are influenced by different stakeholders, that gets stopped. The other thing that can be done is you have Apex institution or an appellate body for regulators, which is APTEL. This is one body which is completely neutral and outside all the politics and so on. I remember getting them to review the tariff fixation of different regulatory commissions, and I thought that actually had a salutary impact. That is another way of ensuring that the tariff fixation exercise comes outside politics. These are two things that probably one can do. One is that get the APTEL to start monitoring the way tariffs are fixed. The second is the lender, that is the bank, which has substantial influence on the borrower, can also be used as an important tool to ensure that tariffs are actually enough to meet the costs of the distribution companies.
Okay.
To what extent agriculture consumers should be subsidized is a very different question.
Sure.
And how much is being consumed in agriculture, that itself is a matter for a lot of debate.
Sure. Completely timed out, but I take that point on board, and I think what is clear from this wonderful panel is that this is a significant milestone. It doesn't matter who gets the credit. The fact that India has achieved 100% rural electrification is a big milestone and a cause for celebration. What that also tells you is that we still have a long way to go, with the fact that we have over 30 million households that still do not have any access to electricity, and there is a whole score of power sector reforms that are yet to be undertaken by the political class across the centre and the state. So long way to go, but a good beginning indeed. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us with your perspective on this edition of the India Development Debate.
Indeed, thanks very much for being with us. Up next is Top 10 at 10 with Tanya Bharadwaj. Stay right there.